Hi everybody, it's Nathan Cool with Swell Watch on surfingmagazine.com. It's been a while since I put together an El Nino, La Nina video, so I thought it's about time to really show what's going on so far this year. We have seen some abnormally warm waters off of California, still very warm. We know that we're not in an El Nino any longer. That's been off the news for quite a while, and other things have been populating that, including the Olympics and a few other things that I've gotten a little bit tired of watching, but thought it would be a nice break from all of the media hubbub that's been going about. So let's take a look real close at what's going on. We still have an interesting winter ahead of us. We don't have a whole lot of surf really shortly on the horizon. We do have some headed our way this week, but not really looking at a lot of tropical activity forming. I wanted to show you kind of what's behind that, but really what's behind the signal coming. One of the things we're really trying to look for right now, it's not just surf, it's also rain. So when are we going to get wet? Well, I want to compare some things to where we can get a good reference point after the 97 El Nino event. What really happened that year? So I wanted to kind of show you what was going on then compared to now and why we still could see some rain coming our way, but definitely we could be out of drought here over the long period if the trend can continue like it is. So I want to show you everything that's going on the models and what we could be expecting for this upcoming winter. So let's take a look at everything that's going on right now. So if we take a look at the sea surface temperatures, they were really quite warm. We can see that here off of California and off of Baja. A lot of abnormally warm water, though this was back near toward more the beginning of August. We can see that the El Nino signal is basically just about gone. This blue here, this is colder water. This is more indicative of La Nina that's taken effect. But one of the important things to really bear in mind is that the readings for La Nina and El Nino are really taken off this area right here. And you can see that's really more of a sliver. If we take a look at the equatorial water, still a lot of abnormally warm waters going on here. And then if we move things forward in time, we can start seeing that as August progressed, a little bit of cooling started to occur off of this area, but look, it also appeared in the Gulf of Alaska. A lot of warming still was going on. So as water temps were cooling off of Baja in California, then the water temps were warming up toward the Gulf of Alaska. And as you might remember from last year, this was known as the blob. Look at it, how warm it is up in the Bering Sea especially. This is very abnormally warm water. Still got that La Nina signal going on in the equatorial Pacific, so still have cool waters there. And of course, if we take a look at what's happening right now, we can see that there's very cool water. Comparing that now, and that's where I jumped ahead a little bit, jumped the gun. This is taking a look back at this same time back in 1998. We can still see the La Nina signal, but look how strong that La Nina signal became. It was a lot of cool water. Also, the northern Pacific had a lot of cool water in it as well. Still some warm water that was residing off of here. And of course, that was because of the PDO signal. We'll get to that in just a second. But when we take a look at what's happening today, at what was happening back in 1998, we see some similarity to the La Nina signal, although it was much stronger signal going into what would be typically a drier, less swell-conducive winter back in 1998 than what we're seeing right now, which says not all hope is lost. And of course, then we've got this wild card with this blobbiness action kind of going on up here, this North Pacific warm anomaly staying very strong right now compared to where it was. But this warm water that you see here back in 1998 that's been hugging the coast of Central America, Mexico, Baja, up and around the U.S. too, we see something similar kind of happening here, and this is indicative of a PDO signal. So we have kind of a strong PDO that's going on right now, and I'll jump to that in just a second. But before jumping to the PDO, we have to remind ourselves that this is really mostly about El Nino, and El Nino is influenced by the PDO. So this is what happened. We can see that last year we had a very strong El Nino for a very short period. So it did peak at about 3 degrees Celsius above normal in those famous El Nino zones in the equatorial Pacific. And then it definitely dropped off. We saw a drop here to in what could be considered somewhat of a La Nina, but this is really more of a neutral time right here during in this zone. So we're not really in La Nina, we're in kind of a La Nina watch according to NOAA. But one of the things that we can see that's very interesting, these are all the different model projections of what will happen. And you can see there's definitely consensus on all the models, and the dashed line here shows the mean for that consensus. We can see that we really wouldn't dip into a very severe La Nina, staying in pretty much a normal state, and then we could be going into then a little bit of a warm state. Not to say that we would necessarily go into El Nino, but the thing that kills us on the drought is really the La Nina. when we stay in somewhat of a neutral state, we still have hope for wet weather and basically a typical normal winter where we could get rainfall, still see surf, just not anything to the extent that El Nino could bring us, but it definitely could put us into more of a normal range. Backed up by that is then the PDO. And we can take a look at the PDO signal here. These are, each column here is the month. So 1998, we can see that by this time, and when we were in about the summertime, that's right in these frames right here, we were at about slightly above normal shortly, but then we quickly went into a very negative, very cool cycle of the PDO. It went negative. We can see that in 1997, it was very warm. We were very, very warm on that PDO signal. Now let's take a look at where we are now in 2016. This year started out very warm. We can see that even now the latest reading comes in 2 degrees Celsius above normal. So we're still at a stronger PDO signal than where we were at this same time after the last major El Nino of 1997, 1998, the big monster El Nino. So we're still looking good for the conditions that could be conducive for continued warm water besides what just the El Nino is bringing us, but all around what we're seeing in the Pacific, especially around this the area here in the eastern Pacific, that could be still conducive to keep a kind of a normal flow going on, be able to possibly bring about future El Ninos in the coming years, because the PDO, the D in PDO stands for decadal oscillation. So unlike El Nino that can wax and wane year by year, we can go into a long period of 10 to 20 years of a warm cycle from the PDO, which could then bring about more frequent El Ninos. But of course, we are in a state of climate change. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, and these are just some of the projections. But looking out on the horizon, things are looking good so far for at least getting some rain in California and somewhat of a normal winter. If we take a look at the weather patterns that are coming out right now, this is very short range, and of course it's not really influenced so much by what we can expect for the upcoming winter and the El Nino or La Nina signal. But we can see here blue is pretty much high pressure, red is low pressure. And interesting thing, we expect to see high pressure building like this over the Pacific. It would be more so also over the west. And that's very typical in the summertime. We expect to see that. What we don't really expect to see, though, are these strong areas of low pressure. They do happen, no doubt about it. We have seen also already some typhoons come across up by Japan and into the Bering Sea, but nothing really to this magnitude, and especially this size. So these are dominant areas of low pressure that are starting to form up and around the Gulf of Alaska. So that's influenced by a dominant transport Rossby wave, likely, that we have these areas of low pressure. Now, if that can continue into the wintertime, then we'd be more likely to see a neutral state. We'd be able to see possibly return of El Nino sometime soon, because we're not going to have that ridiculously resilient ridge that was so typical during the extended La Nina. There was extended drought that we had, and that's of course what it would look like if we did have that. So this is something to really keep an eye on. It's very interesting to note, though, that we are seeing quite a bit of activity all in the northern Pacific, and it's just August, the middle of August. So we've still got a long ways to go to see what's going to happen. But keeping our fingers crossed that we're definitely not going to get into a drought, and by the looks of it right now, that's going to be the way that it will be. So that's how it's looking right now. No severe La Nina headed our way. We're not in El Nino, but we don't have to have El Nino to have a lot of rain. We don't have to have El Nino to have a lot of surf. The biggest thing is to make sure that we don't get into La Nina. When that happens, we get that ridiculously resilient ridge I've talked about in other videos, where we've got that massive area of blocking high pressure that would set up in the Gulf of Alaska, thwart the jet stream to the north, say goodbye to the storms, and of course any surf that they would bring to the west coast. So far, so good. Nothing epic by the looks of it right now, but we could go into what could be a normal winter, and of course that's not bad news. It's not the best of news to get out of a severe drought, but it's not bad news at all. Still got a long ways to go to see how this all plays out, so I'll be keeping a close eye on it, and of course I'll be providing some more information before winter gets underway. If you want to stay updated on these videos, you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel. Doesn't cost you anything, and as soon as one of these videos are posted, you'll be the first to know. Also, you can follow my forecasts on surfingmagazine.com. Just go to forecasts.surfingmagazine.com, and I concentrate on Southern California. Also, if you want to, you can follow me on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/NathanToddCool. And every once in a while, when I just don't have time for a video or between some of my reports, I post some of my updates. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a subscriber. Until next time, take care, be safe, and smile in the lineup.